All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dan, for those of you that I haven't met yet. I am standing in for Dave, who is no longer with us at Advantage. Let me start off tonight by speaking about talking about our specials. Tonight only, we're doing 20% off of Coco Bolo, all the Coco Bolo, and 40% off all other slabs. As most of y'all know, if you're going to purchase something tonight, write your ticket at the back counter back here and pay when you guys take a break tonight. That's the easiest way to get in and out without any backups. And let me bring up December 7th, this super sale we're having. Pretty much all slabs, hardwoods, even including decking, deck tiles. They're really going to go to like rock bottom pricing. I know you guys are having your Christmas party, I believe, on the same day. We're doing this sale from 8 to 3, and it's really worth coming out for. There's going to be some really great pricing on pretty much everything that you guys see in the back here and everywhere here. I think that's about it. If you have any questions, just ask me. Bear with me a little bit. I have some big shoes to fill for Dave, and I am learning. But like I said, I've been here for 5 years, so I do know a little bit. But I'll get there, and I look forward to talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dan. And if you haven't walked around and back, do it before you leave. It's really spectacular what they have here in inventory. Okay, we now are at the real business part of the meeting. We have to do nominations for officers for the coming year. As I think you know, each officer serves a one-year term. I will not be a candidate for president for next year for reasons that I've already explained. I'm so committed in Vermont that I just can't divide my time effectively. So I'm going to step down at the end of this term. But I will now open the floor for nominations, and I'll tell you, Jim Weeks has agreed to be a candidate for the president. Alan Levine, who is not here, has agreed to be vice president. The other officers have agreed to serve another term. So I will put it out to you now for nominations. Steve, you had your hand up. Oh, okay. All right. So the floor is open for nominations, and we need a nomination and a second for each office: president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and we have 2 members at large now. One will be moving up to vice president. So we have room for 1 or even 2 more members at large. So the floor is open. Charlie. Yeah, Jim Weeks has been nominated for president. Is there a second? He has been seconded. For the office of vice president, Alan Levine is the candidate. Would somebody like to nominate Alan? Okay, Alan Levine has been nominated. A second? Okay, he's been seconded. Steve Johns for treasurer. Okay, he's been nominated. Is there a second for Steve Johns? Okay. Other nominations for any of the previous offices? The floor is still open for any office. So I'm asking for Steve, but for the treasurer, but if there's another one that would like to serve. Secretary, Dave Hausman. Is there someone that would like to nominate Dave to serve another term? Charlie? Okay, Dave Hausman has been nominated. Is there a second for that? Many seconds. I don't know if anybody's recording this, but okay. Dave has been seconded. Dave Lawich has offered to serve as member at large. Would somebody like to nominate Dave? The floor is open. Jim? Okay. Jim Weeks has nominated Dave. Charlie has seconded it. Frank is also a member at large and has agreed to serve again in that capacity. You're nominating Frank? Okay. And Frank's being seconded. Okay. The nominations are still open. Is there anyone else who would like to nominate for someone for member at large? Then a motion is in order to close the nominations for tonight. When we have our election at the December meeting, which will not be here, it'll be at one of our meetings on Tuesday. I will open the floor again just in case there's anyone else that didn't come tonight and would like to be nominated. But for a motion would be in order to close the nominations for tonight. Okay, is there a second on that? Okay, thank you very much. You have nominated Jim Weeks for president, Alan Levine for vice president, Steve Johns for treasurer, Dave Hausman for secretary, Dave Laubich for member at large, and Frank Johannesson for member at large. Thank you very much. Okay, any other announcements before we get to our demonstrator of the evening? Anybody else have anything they would like to say, offer, anything? Okay. When I went to Mark Sillay's website, I wanted to get a little bit of background information, and I printed out his little bio page and promptly left it at home sitting on the counter. So I'm going to wing this, but I did read it before I sat it down on the counter. Most of you are familiar with Mark. He's very well known, not only in the Southeast, but I was very impressed to see that he on his website, he had a schedule of the gigs that he's done just recently in the last few months, and he's been to Alabama, Mississippi, out in the Midwest, all around Atlanta. He's a regular. There are many clubs in Atlanta, and when now that he's in Florida for this week, he's doing several other clubs. So he's popular, he's well known, and if you've ever watched one of his videos on YouTube, you know what a good demonstrator he is. When I asked Ron Browning last month how I should introduce him, he said, "Oh, just say that I'm an old guy who likes to turn." I'll spare Mark calling him that, but he did start when he was very young. I think he was just a child when his dad gave him some tools, got going with turning later on. He said he had a chance to meet Cindy Drozda and see one of her demos years ago, and was very impressed with the delicate pieces that she was making, and he really got interested in doing some of his own. So when it talks about wood slicing tonight, it will be about making very fine things like that. I don't know if he's going to get into doing some. I think he is. He looks like he's got a small piece chucked up. He's really kind of invented the term wood slicing. He works with a very sharp spindle gouge, and so that's his term for making really delicate cuts on pieces of wood. So you're going to learn a little bit about that. And then, of course, tomorrow will be the demo for the weed pot. But as he said, he can work with anybody on anything that they would like. So he's very flexible. He's a great demonstrator and a great guy to have in the workshop. We look forward to this. I'm very pleased to present Mark Sillay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. And can you all hear me? Okay. All right. What I do, since I know there's some new people here, I'll just give them a taste of what they can do tomorrow if they want, and maybe it's a review, real quick review. Oh, my switch is over here. Every time I work on a different lathe. Okay, this is gonna be real quick, because I was asked to do how to present sapwood to enhance your art, so we'll do that tonight too. Anyway, I don't use my hands, I just use my body. Body goes back and forth. We're taking from square to round, with a roughing gouge. And we soon learn, right, when we look at the surface here, can the camera see that? Can the camera see the surface? Okay, it's really roughed up. The reason is we violated the first rule of wood turning. Wood cannot come into a wood turning tool. If it does, it's always a scrape. And I train on 2x4s because if you misuse the tool, it shatters. What we're going to do is we're going to reorient the tool. So now, if we look on the top, if we make the rotation and the blade in line, not coming into it, but in line with the rotation, now we can slice wood. And all of your tools. So, all we have to do is A, anchor the tool, B, rub the bevel, C, bring the handle forward, and the cut line appears. Everybody see that cut line appear? Then all I have to do is do what? Just stand here. I put a little force down the handle, and the tool ricochets across the bevel, and even a 2x4, it should be shiny. See that? No sanding required. So this is this roughing gouge here is one of the best finish tools you have in your toolbox. I'm serious. If you're going to do hollow forms, you're going to do end grain bowls, stuff like that, what are you going to make the final cut with? A roughing gouge with a fresh burr on it. And you can start at 400 or 800 grit. So don't laugh about it. Right? And another thing, while I'm right here, turning tools are steered left to right motion, like the rudder on a sailboat, right? Again, we anchor, we rub the bevel, we make the cut line. And as I'm going forward, right, if I move my hip to the right, the cut line gets deeper. If I move my hip to the left, it lessens it, so we can make beads, coves, whatever, by a simple motion of the hips. So I'm a production turner, right? So I can't afford sanding time. You're always going to have to do a little sanding, but so that's it for the spindle gouge. And all gouges work the same way, the hip or the roughing gouge. Okay, this is for I met this lady out in the parking lot. I can't remember her name, but everybody watch. It's just going to take a couple minutes, and I'll talk while I'm doing this. I'm going to make a point. The center of the tool comes to the center of rotation. And if you'll notice, wood turning tools don't operate in straight lines. If I operate in a straight line, boom, it comes off the cut line. Boom. You see guys, boom, 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 boom. They don't know how the tool operates. Right? So as the diameter decreases, I have to raise the handle and drive the point. If you'll notice, I'm pushing the cut line with the point of the tool to its final destination. So when we get down to make a point really quickly, we push forward, and when we get right down at the very end, we stop pushing physically. We look at the tool, and we move the tool mentally. We just look at the tool, and imperceptibly, your body will want to make that thing go forward, but you will never feel it. And look at that, folks, down to one fiber. Yes, you see that? Anyone wants to come up and feel this stuff, you're welcome. No sin. Okay, so I'll just roll a little bead right here just for curiosity. And now I'm going to make one of the 5 forms, which is a disc. I'm going to put my tool 90 degrees to the spindle. I'm going to twist it to the 1 o'clock cutting position. And all I'm going to do is raise the tool handle. Let me just put this down just a little bit. All I'm going to do is raise the tool handle and squeeze it to the left. That's all I'm going to do. So I'm 90 degrees to spindle, 1 o'clock cutting position. Touch the bottom blade first, right? Just raise up, go behind the edge, raise up, squeeze left, behind the edge, squeeze left. Now we'll just take some V-cuts, we'll just get rid of material. Notice the body moving. My hands are still on my hips. They're in my sweet part of my body here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the diameter and I'm going to make the lowest diameter so that when I push this way, this is end grain, if it splits, it can't split out until it gets to the smallest diameter. So I make the smallest diameter that I'm going to make, right? And then I can start pushing like this. See that? Just we're going to smooth that out. We'll connect it up. We'll make a little cove cut. There we go. We're going to make a V cut right here. Flat cut. Body to the side. Come halfway down the blade, just like a skew. Right? We're going to roll a little bead. We start at the equator. Right? And we push the cut line all the way around to the South Pole. Boom. And we end up at 12 o'clock. Come in here and we come back so that there's no, the joints are clean. Right? Okay, so I have to make a V cut to make the other side of the bead because I have to have a place for the tool to go. So now we go back to the equator, right? We pick up the cut line, right? Now we bring the cut line all the way around to the North Pole. Right? Make another V cut. Make another V cut right here. Bingo. Now we'll make a cove, right? So a cove, we have to have our heel on the tool handle, or on the tool rest, and we push the tool through our hand like a pool cue, right? Because as a farmer's plow, the point has to go into the dirt, you know? Okay, so we're going to push, and if I want the tool to go that way, I have to lean this way. It takes the tool that way. Right? On a cove, that bead had to go into the center of rotation. The cove, the tool has to end up above the wood, always. So we're going to push, we're going to lean, we're going to drop the handle so that the tool goes up, and we're going to scoop or twist the tool so that the tool starts at the point and it ends up, the cut one's way up down here on the side of the parabolic curve. So we'll just take that, right? Push, lean, drop, twist. Push, lean, drop, twist. Push, lean, drop, twist. The other way. Push, lean, drop, and twist right above the wood. I'll come back and I'll match that up. Make a little chamfer cut here. Take out some V cuts to remove material. Yeah. Once you learn how to do your 5 basic shapes, I can do all this with a spindle gouge. I can do it with a roughing gouge. Right? It makes no difference. It all operates the same. just making V-cuts, get rid of material, give the tool a place to go. So now I'm going to make an OG curve. I'm going to take a cove, a flat, and then roll it back into a bead. Here we go. Making a cove, push, lean, twist. Now I get right here, I do what? I move my hip to the right and make a flat cut. Now I bring the cut back to the tip of the tool and roll it over into a bead into the center of rotation. Here. Right? I'll make a V cut here. Now in order to cut this thing off, I have to go downhill. See how I'm going downhill? Now I've got a place for the tool to go. If I don't do that, I'll jam this in here. It'll act like a wedge and it'll spin that off. And if you slice things and you have them balanced, how much vibration do you see on this thing? None. So we just take this downhill, right? And now we'll just roll this over into a little quick bead. I'm going to reach under here. Just go over here and just hold the tool and it'll cut off. So every morning when I go to my shop, it starts at 3:30 in the morning. I work from 3:30 to 7:30 in the morning. No interruptions. I get a lot of work done. Right? So all of these, these are my warm-up exercise. I make all kinds of ornaments, right? Just any shape you want. I make 2 of these every morning, right? And they all go to the children's hospitals and school children and all kinds of places. And I've got people that bring by, because I do so much charity work, you know what they do? They bring me by construction scraps. They just dump them on my driveway. I want to pass that around, right? You didn't see any sandpaper. This is beads, coves, flats, discs, and points on a 2x4 sliced. That's what we had Dan and everything. They came to the shop or over to the Fort Myers thing, and we did 2 days of slicing classes. But you can do anything you want to. Okay, so the program was, how do we enhance wait a minute, I need the thing here. How do we enhance our wood turning with sapwood? Let's put, I had a piece of, I just had a piece of walnut here. Well, this is what happens when you get old. You set something down, you can't. I swear to God. Does anybody see a piece of walnut here? It was right here. This is cherry. That's not it. Oh, here it is. That is it. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions? You can go to my website, it's marksillay.com, or you can go to YouTube. There's some videos on my website, but go to YouTube. There's a 4-part series on wood slicing, right? And it's very informative. I have, there's also a video out there now of how to use the Parfix 408, and there was a wrench or something in here. There we go. And another thing, if anybody has an iPhone, you can call me up and you say, Mark, can I do FaceTime? Right? That's not going to come off of there. Let me see. We got a pair of channel on. Oh, I got a, wait a minute, I got a pin in it. Just a second. If I see. This, I saw somebody up there had a bowl with a nice little rim in it. Yeah, I take scrap and I just glue it together. Little wood. People buy these little bowls like crazy. It's not segmented. You just layer it and turn it, so anybody can do it with a mini lathe in their shop. You just glue a waste block on here. You and then you cut the waste, put it on jam, cut the waste. Super glue on the bottom, and you're done. Where's that pin? Here. Maybe a drill will work. There we go. Yeah. There we go. And I'm glad I brought this adapter because all of my stuff is. Let me go to a center. Okay, so here's a little block of walnut. Yeah, here's a little. Thank you. Help me out. I'm an old man. Okay, so what I block of walnut. If I have a log and I want to display, I'm going to make. Let's say I'm going to make a weed pot or some type of little hollow form. Right? Instead of just taking all the dark walnut and turning it, if we just take that dark walnut and turn it, it looks blah. It's ordinary. If we do an offset turn on just that dark block, then we can make a light shadow line that's askance. And it intrigues people. But one of the things you can do, if you have a log, if I was gonna turn a little hollow form out of this, I would do this. I would make the block like this so I have some of the sapwood. Now we're gonna start and we're gonna come in here and have all heartwood. And we're going to have all heartwood when we come down. But in the middle, if I make a shape, then if the sapwood's in there, then that shape is going to, the sapwood shape is going to mimic the outside shape of your vase or your weed pot. So if you have wood, try, if you're going to make a little piece, right, try to find out where there's a little bit of sapwood on it. And then you can turn that, and we'll do this real quick, right? But what will happen is your art will look better because you have now displayed what the wood really looks like, the entire tree. So we're always trying, I always try anyway. Let me put a longer tool rest on there. I always try to show the character of the wood. If it's a burl, we try to, show the bird's eyes. If it's got a hole in it, we try to accentuate the hole. So what here we're going to do with this tonight, we're just going to turn this real quick and just show you how you can enhance it. We can enhance this shape with a mimicking shape of sapwood. I think we got this in here okay. All right. almost round. Okay, we'll start to shape it. See, we've got a little bit of sapwood, but we don't want the sapwood to go all the way. We want to make the design at the focal point of whatever we're doing. So what do we make out of this? What shape do you want? Somebody's going to make a little vase. What do we want to do? Hollow form. We'll make a reverse hollow form for you. People make reverse hollow forms. Okay, when we're making tenons, I have a right angle on mine. Some people have a dovetail. But watch what I'm going to do. Your bowl gouge operates at a 45-degree angle, so we come in on a 45-degree angle. See that? 45 degrees over the flutes. We push the point, push the cut line with the point to its final destination. To have a safe tenon on this, we have to roll this bowl gouge all the way closed so that there's a square corner here. If it's round, then the jaws may not touch the front wall. It's the front wall that holds it on the chuck. Okay. Now this one here, I'm going to move this in. Mine takes a 3/8 depth. We don't want the bottom of the tenon ever to touch the back wall of your chuck. That's a no-no, so we'll just take a little off. And no matter what you're turning, always leave center register. I take that little thing down real thin and it'll fit in the hole in the middle of the jaw. But that keeps me, I can always turn things one way or the other, and I always have center register. It's very important when you're fitting and working with things. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make the focal point right about here. I'll just take the rough and gouge. I'll leave a small wall for the jaws. Okay, that's not round yet. I was making it round, but it's not quite round, so I got to take that off. Now, you see where I've got this shape right here? I'm going to come down in here to make that dark, and we're going to leave that little oval right up in there, but I got to get it round. Okay, so it's still not round. Mercy. It felt pretty smooth, but I guess. Okay, but you see what's happening? We're starting to make, instead of just the plain piece, all of a sudden we start to have a shape that follows the shape. Let me finish that. Okay. Let's just come in here. All right, that's it for that. Okay, so what we have here, we can make this a little base, right? I'll just put it around because somebody can finish this thing. We can give it to the club, you guys can auction it off. So now what we've done, we've got our dark wood, we've got our dark wood, and we've created a little sapwood for enhancement. We can pass it around. You guys can auction them off or do whatever you want. I don't care. That's one way to mimic. Always leave a little bit of sapwood and mimic your shape. The next thing we'll do, a little old piece of Boxelder. We'll do another hollow form. So this is end grain. This is an end grain hollow form. And what we're going to create is stalagmites and stalactites. Turn it down. Bark will fly off. We'll get this bark off. I'll go ahead and create a small tenon so if somebody gets it, they can finish it. And we roll that corner down. So now what we want to do, let's look at it. And so as we get into some red, you see these little red fingers here? Starting to come. So what we want to do is grow the fingers. We want to make them longer. But but we don't want them to touch. See, this is going to be the top, okay? Okay, so right there, it's going to be my sort of 1/3 golden mean point. Right, so we'll work backwards. And let's check and see how our fingers are growing. If we're, oh, we are. They're growing them up. Look at that. They're moving up. Very good. So we got to go way up to here to make round. I'm going to turn it up a little bit now. I can still see a little ghost. So let's check it out, see if we're growing our fingers up here. Ooh, they're getting a little higher. Look at that. Okay, so now let's grow these fingers down this way. Let's see how they're growing. Okay, they're getting down here a little bit, so we can take off a little more right there and get it round. Okay, they still haven't touched. All right, I got just a little bit of flat right here. Let's see if we can clean that out. Okay, we can actually make that a little bit. I don't want these to touch. What I'm trying to do is have the stalagmites and stalactites and have your sapwood in the middle. What? Oh, I thought somebody said something. Anyway, we'll make one more small cut right here. And now this is punky. This is real punky Boxelder. It's already started to spalt. And I see a little bit of tear out up here. Not good for a wood slicer. So I'll take the spindle gouge. going to come back and make another cut. Let these, well, I'll come back down here and I'll let these fingers grow down. Okay, they've grown down a little bit, so they've almost touched. So I'm going to stop there, right? And what we have is stalagmites and stalactites. You leave this into sapwood. I'll just leave this like this because we're going to go on. Somebody can turn that and finish it. And what I find is that I'd rather have it's a crappy looking big piece. Because guess what? This can be worth some money. This can be a pet urn. All right, so all you got to do is hollow it out, put a collar on it, thread your finial, you know, and it's a nice little piece. A hamster urn or whatever, but you can narrow this down and you can put African blackwood on the bottom as a base. You can do ball-to-ball construction or something like that, you know, and then put a little collar on. Let me see if I've got one. I don't know whether I left that in here or not, or another. It's in another box. Wait a minute. Yeah, it's in another box, but I'm going to pass that around. Go ahead, and we'll get into something else. But do you get the drift? You can grow those fibers either way, right? Okay. Let's take. All right, we'll just put this piece on. It's so what I've done. This log, of course, was round like this, and here's the bark, and here's the bark on here. And so what I did is I just took a section of that log, and then we oriented it side grain. So that what are we going to try to make here? We're going to sapwood on the top and a beautiful dark shape in the middle going side grain. How many people do stuff like this? I mean, do you play with this? What? Let me see where I have the most sapwood. Well, it's pretty even. All right, we'll just go up here. If anybody has any questions, holler at me. That's even enough for today. What? Cryptomeria. Japanese cedar. Okay, now, what do you think I should do to round this sucker out? What tool should I use? What? No. Okay, that's a good learning point. That's why I asked the question. We never, ever, ever use a spindle roughing gouge on a side. Number one, it's got a tang. It doesn't have a solid piece of metal down there. And number two, when this grain comes around, side grain, it wants to bury itself in like a chisel. It'll split this thing right apart. And in the process, it's going to take it underneath the tool rest and it's going to pop you in the chin. Other than that, no, that's a very important statement. Never, ever, ever use a spindle roughing gouge on side grain work, period.
That's still fairly green.
Yep, that's green. So we'll use our bowl gouge. And if it's side grain, where's the final cut going to be? It's going to be from the base to the widest point. Just like a side grain bowl. See, we don't put our tool on there and fight it. You always put your tool at a 45-degree angle down, 45 across the flute. You put this on your leg or your hip, wherever it's comfortable. You lock the heel of your hand on there, and you do what? You stand there like a jerk, and you just rotate your, and guess what? It's not bouncing or it's going to become round. See that? Yeah, the hardest thing for men to learn is just to hold and guide the tool. They want to put energy in it. You got energy in this motor, right? You bought the tool, let it do the work. Let's check out and see where we're at. So let's take this. We'll just put a little tenon down here. Yes, if we want. If we're gonna, but I'm not going to turn these. We're not going to hollow them out or anything tonight. We're just showing shape. Okay, let me get this. We'll make a. And we'll always leave center registration. Roll it close, get a sharp edge. Forever who gets that. There we go, that's good. Now let's take a look and see what we've got. Okay, so I want this focal point. Let's spin it. Here's my focal point on this pith. Let's come around. PDC, pretty darn close. So now what we can do is we can enhance this, right? Watch what's going to, we want to leave some sapwood. Right? But what we're going to do is we're going to enhance it a little bit. You take it off and you shift this. Just like you do on a natural edge bowl, you know, your rim has to match up this way, and then 90 degrees it has to match up again in order to get even bark. Everybody know that? Oh. Okay. Okay, while I'm doing this is side grain. Let's go through the 3 side grain cuts with the bowl gouge. First, pull cut. The tool handle is on the hip, right? The top blade is 1/4 of an inch away from the wood, right? And you draw your hip around. You don't yank the left hand, right? Don't move your hands. Just now this is pretty soft wood. So look at this. What do you see? Why? Thank you. That was a direct scrape. So this is really no different than a side grain bowl at this point. So what's the next cut that you have if you're doing side grain work? You've got a push cut, but what's the next one that you would, it's a build up to that? Shear pull. Okay, so now what you do is you roll the bow gouge completely upside down, like that. You put the top blade a 64th of an inch away from the wood, and you draw it, you put your handle down as far as you can, and now you draw it around with your hip again, and now you're going to get angel hair. Now, we've still got a little tear out. It's not as bad. So what's the ultimate solution? Is always the push cut. So, if we're on this form right here, in order for me to, it's between centers. So if I take my bowl gouge to do a push cut, tailstock is in the way. If this was on a plate, something like that, you could pull this back, but I can't. So how am I going to get in there to make that push cut? Change the angle on the gouge. Use your bottom feeder, right? Your bottom feeder has about an 80-degree bevel on it. So if it's 80 degrees, now when I put it on the bevel, guess what? The handle's not involved with the tailstock. So now let's turn it on. This is all really wet, soft wood, so we'll see if this makes any difference. All right? So now if I make my push cut around here, we got the very least tear out on that we can possibly have. There's one thing I can do. I can take this bowl gouge and lower it down and see if I can slice it with the side of the bevel. Now, you would not have this when this is dry. When this piece of wood is dry, the fibers are stiff. Here, the fibers are wet and they lay over like wet ropes. But let's just try and let's see if we can use the side. Let's use the side bevel, right, and see if we can get a better result. I got in too deep. Now, look at that. We got a little bit right there, but that's minimal. When that's dry, that'll You can just use 400 or 800, you know. Okay, let's continue on here. We'll go on. We're going to make this little thing, and I want to come up here so we have this in the middle. It's just rough and gouge. Man, that thing's getting dull.
Didn't you say not to use that tool on the side grain? Didn't you say not to use the roughing gouge on the side grain?
I did, and I picked it up. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so now what we've done is we have made our little shape, but we've made our design, our heartwood in the middle. We've still got the sapwood all the way around. I'll see if I can slice that off just a little bit easier. That's all right. Somebody can enhance that. Does everybody get that? Now, what's nice about this is, let's say you have like a piece of star pattern. Then you can have the star completely in the middle, or if you come in just a little bit, then you can have the star fingers on either side. You can make them grow this way. Charles Farrar does a lot of his work like that. It's gorgeous. You guys need to get Charles Farrar down here sometime. Unbelievable. Does great workshops. He's up in Virginia. He just together that show, the shape of the art or something like that. It was up at the Gant in Charlotte. He had John Moskell and Abelino Samuel up there. Let me see if I can just cut that a little bit cleaner. I don't know if I can or not. Let's see. That may help it a little bit, I don't know. We're going to move on. So we really don't care when it's green. It's going to have to dry. We're going to have to make another final cut. We're going to hollow it or do whatever. But I was just trying to show you, you can do that. And if you got little fingerly patterns and all that, it really makes some, let that sapwood, don't get rid of it. Just try to use the sapwood so you get a little contrast. Somebody can drill that and hollow it or do whatever. That Japanese cedar is really nice. Okay. Everybody does natural edge side grain bowls? How many people do natural edge end grain bowls? Nobody? Why don't you turn end grain bowls? If you don't like them, that's fine. Okay, so we'll just put this on here, and I'll show you the essence of a end grain bowl. Come on. I don't know whether the bark will stay on this thing or not, but we'll see. Okay, now on an end grain bowl, where's your final cut going to be? It's going to be from the rim to the base. Careful, guys. Be aware the bark might come off of this stuff. So now this is end grain. I can use my spindle rough gouge. I'm an idiot. I got so carried away getting this stuff down, I took the bark off. Let's see what we got left. Damn. Yep. Sorry. Sorry. Let's see what else I got over here. I cannot believe I did that. Yeah, give me one. Well, I'll tell you what, I encourage every club member, right, to come up and do a demo for their club. You'll see what goes on up here. What? Oh my God, if it's going to happen, it's going to. No, the thing is, you get so caught up in the stuff, you know. I was just trying to, I'm trying to do this fast, boom, boom, boom. Unbelievable. A lot of people have questioned that. All right. Okay, now we're going to turn this down because this is not balanced. Yeah, this is some little Boxelder. Yeah. Okay. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll cut the top edge first. There we go. Well, I'll just make this the top edge over here. Because we can actually make, I just knocked the bark off. All right, here we go. See if we got a live edge. We got one. See, I got a little thing right there, and I got a little thing. All right, let's see if we can do that. We'll take it down a little ways. Now the top of this bowl is not going to be round. It's going to follow the contour of the log. Okay, that's good enough for them. Well, we're going to give this to somebody, aren't we? So we'll... I'll take it back where there's no bark. Turn it up just a little bit. See what we got. Okay, that's a clean cut, pretty much. Okay, so now when we're doing our natural edge bowl, all right, we're gonna round this part off, but we're not gonna round it all the way. I've learned that tonight. Okay, the essence of an end grain bark edge bowl, I've got to take more of a cut. See, I didn't get quite to there. So what we want to have is an even bark all the way around, just like we want to have even bark on the side grain bowl. We got it. Okay, we got it. And right there where that depression is, all right, I've got to keep that jamming. We'll go back in there. I don't want to turn that up any higher. We'll make it just a little thinner. Camming just a little bit. Okay, there we go. Okay. So what we'll do for tonight, since I didn't have a bandsaw or anything here, so what we'll do is we'll just leave this. And somebody can do this, and somebody can do another one out of this side. You can saw this down the middle, you know, recenter it, and do that. If you want me to, do you want me to hollow this and show you? Okay, then I'll put a tenon out on this end. And I know what I'll do. Maybe I'll just cut it off and be done with it. Where they begin. this one. Let's see if we can cut it off. I just hit that again. I don't know if I can. I'm at the end of my tool. Let's see, what can I cut that off with? I'll go back to the B-Dan. I don't like to extend that B-Dan way over the edge. I took the corner off of B-Dan up there showing people how to make a cane tool. That's as far as I'm taking. Yeah, when you get around the shop, you gotta, if you get that little premonition or whatever, you know, stop. Don't. No, I'm serious, you know, I mean, if one more cut, right, now this is gonna splinter out and all that, but we'll just take it for what it is tonight. It's gonna mush that thing all out. Ooh. That's going to be good enough for tonight. It's okay, here we go. Then we can hollow it out. Okay, so where was the final cut? It came from the rim down to the base. So I guess I'll have to make another cut. Get it where it'll line up. We'll redo our tenon. Roll it over so that it's at a right angle. We can leave that on there for a choice at the end. We can put our I'll put the chuck on there and we'll be all set. Anybody have any questions? Oh, I got to put the adapter on. Yeah. Yes. No, they'll stay. You gotta hollow it out right away. All your stuff will stay. If you have a doubt, what do you do about it? You don't put any super glue from the outside unless you're gonna finish it with super glue. You drip super glue, take a flashlight and drip it down on the pith from the inside. That'll stabilize it. Does that make any sense? A lot of times when you're going to put a different finish on something than super glue, then don't use super glue, because your finish won't soak into the super glue. You'll have a shiny spot when you get done. So if you're going to fill cracks and you're using like Bartley's gel, wipe-on poly, then what do? You glue or you seal or you stabilize with wipe-on poly. Right? If you want to, let's say you got something that's punky, right? Before you make that final cut, you take your wipe-on poly and you do what? Cut it 50-50 with mineral spirits. Soak the damn wood, let it dry for 2 or 3 days. Now go back and make the final cut, and then when you put the wipe-on poly on for the finish, it's the same stuff. There's no marks or lines or differential. Use super glue, then you can stabilize with super glue, and you can fill your cracks with super glue. Right? Now here's another trick you may not know. I'll just pass it on. Crack. Right? Let's say you were going to use a thin super glue to fill a crack. The very first thing I do is I spray the or if you're going to use dust, you can put your dust and tap it and vibrate it so it settles in the crack. Then pour on your thin super glue. Accelerators in the bottom, it cures from the bottom up. If you just do it from the make that other cut and you go back into powder again. Always let it cure from the bottom up. Yep. Yep. Thinner than water, so it'll go into a less than 1,000th of a crack. It'll soak right into the molecules. Okay. Should I or shouldn't I? I will, just for the hell of it. Okay, I have a doubt. When I have a doubt, I get that little funny feeling. I go back and I make sure, I make sure that this is on here tight. It is. Tell you what, that saved me 1,000,000 times. Okay, so I'm going to drill and pull We push the bowl gouge directly down the center of rotation. We drill in and we pull out. We drill in, we pull out. Drill in, pull out. Ah, come on. Gotta watch that. Now we're going to stop the lathe. We're going to see how deep we are. One more cut. One more cut. Okay. We'll save that last cut for coming up the bottom. Okay. So now what I've got to do is I've got to follow the curve on the outside. So I put my left eye on the outside curve, and I watch the gouge, and I go across the top. I'm looking right across. And now I'm going to follow that curve, and then I'm going to peel out of the cut. I'm going to follow that curve, look on the left side with my left eye. All right, go on down. Now I'm going to peel out of the cut. All right, now I'm going to come on down, and we're going to do the same thing. And now I'm going to peel out of the cut. So now, if this was a dry bowl, what would I have to do? I'd have to make the final cut coming from the base up to the rim. If we go this way on an end grain bowl, then we're going up the fibers. Right? So the top of the bowl is not, it's the shape of the log. This is even, this is even. Right? Okay, so now I've got to go. I'll just do it on this wet piece just so you can see. I'm going to drop this tool rest down a little bit. Boy, these cams on this thing lock like crazy. Oh, okay. All right. So I can take the bowl gouge, right, and I can push from the center all the way up the edge, but it gets out here pretty awkward, doesn't it? Because the bevel is too sharp. I could take a bottom feeder, and I could do it. But what's going to happen? The flute on a bowl gouge sticks out to the side. And if the wood's coming around this way, what's happening? That front blade is a scrape. What? Well, how's that going to change the cut? It's still a scrape. It's on the other side. So what tool do you have in your toolbox that you can make a final cut on an end grain bowl with? Spindle gouge. So, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go. Can the camera see the grinder? If I put it on it, I'll just twist this around a second. Okay, here we go. I've got a spindle gouge, and I've taken the back off. Just like that. And I've made a convex back on this spindle gouge. You can see how it's convex. Now, if I stick a sharp spindle gouge down there, I'm going to kill myself. So what we do is we point our finger at the wheel. We put the flute over the finger. If you want a 45-degree angle on the gouge, then you hold the tool out at a 45 and you roll it around. If it's a little bit deeper, we have to do what? Maybe a 60-degree. So we put it on there, and we just roll it around like that, and bingo, right? We've got a nice flute, and we've got it, if you'll notice here, we all the way down the edge, because I started on the wheel and I went this way. So can the camera see in here? Okay, can the camera see in here? I'm going to lower this down just a little bit. Okay, so now, let's look right here. With this shallow flute and a spindle gouge, now the blade lines up with the rotation of the wood, doesn't it? For slicing. So we're going to push. We're going to go to the center, and we're going to push across. See that ribbon coming off of the wood? This is wet wood. If it was dry, it would be slick as a trick. But all I'm doing is holding the tool. The tool is doing the work. Never-ending ribbon. Now I'm going to drop the tool handle down. See that slice? All the way up the side, because I really don't want to sand. There's a wet piece of wood. I will pass it around, and you can see, right, how much tear out I got on there. If that was dry, you could start with 4. What? I'll pass it around. You can see. It's just a one-sided spindle gouge with a grind on it. This is 90 degrees to the wheel, right, with an angle on it. So this is flat. It's not concave. It's not convex. It runs true. If anybody, right, wants to come to the workshops and play around with wood, or play with cuts or whatever, but what we've demonstrated here is we're trying to use our sapwood, if I can find the thing here. We're trying to use our sapwood see that? It followed the shape of the log. And the outside will be pretty. Our fingers came up. It's all garbage, but we'll pass it around. Just put a side grind on your spindle gouge, and that's how to finish the inside of an end grain bowl. Okay. How about a side grain bowl? Does anybody want to see me do a side grain bowl? Okay. Now, I can do, let's see. if we could cut this in half, I could do a little. Here's what I'm going to do, just for humor. I'm going to show you how to set up. Show you how to set up the side grain. Does everybody know how to set up the side grain bowl so that the bark comes out even? Okay. I need a. I'll set this one up. I'll set it up, turn it because it's got square and it'll take us forever. But everybody's going to get the drift. We'll just say that this piece has perfect bark on it. I'll just leave this on and I'll squeeze in there and we won't have to mess around. Let's see, here we go. Okay, the first thing you would do when you have if you're going to do a natural edge side grain, you would take a Forstner bit and you would clean this bark off down to the wood so that the bark doesn't tear out with your spur drive. A couple things. I'm in Tucker, Georgia. If you ever come to the look me up. I have 3 warehouses full of wood. I have a shop that I teach in all the time. And you can have a pretty good time. A lot of times 2 or 3 guys will come up together and we'll teach them at one time. Or I will be back down in this area after the new year. I'm going to be in Kingsland, Georgia when I leave here. If anybody knows Barbara Hahn, she has a really nice shop up there, and she runs these hands-on things all the time. I'm going to be in Frank's shop tomorrow. Okay, here we go. We put the tool rest out here, and we put our thumb on the tool rest. Oh, it's going to hit. Okay, let me move here just a minute. We'll get it. Okay, there we go. So what I do is on this end of the bark, I put my finger right here. And I make sure that that's even with the bark. Then I spin it to the other side. Now there's a gap. There's about a 1/4 of an inch gap. So what do I have to do? I have to just a tad, and we'll do it again. There's my thumb on the bark. My thumb on the bark. That's pretty even, okay? So now what I have to do, if this bark came all the way over to the edge, then now I have to do what? I have to make it on my thumb on 90 degrees from here. See that? So that bark is broken off, but just imagine that the bark is coming down, and you have to make that even with your thumb. When you make it both ways, then when you make your cut in here on your natural edge side grain bowl, right, the bark will be even all the way around. Everybody got that? Okay. We'll move on. Now the same rules apply on your side grain bowl, right? Guess what? Whether it's natural edge or whatever. On the bark edge up here, you have to come in this way with your tool to start it. If you go this way, it's going to break the bark off. Right. And your final cut on the inside has to be what? From the outside down to the inside. We just did a little natural edge to another one. I can, do you want to do a quick offset? Gluttons for punishment. Okay. Well, we got that in there. Let's just leave that right in there. We'll get this off. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a piece of wood on there. Now this is dry wood, so we could actually finish this. What was...
Just commenting, we're gonna see this twice now, we're still not gonna be able to figure out how to do it.
Well, have to do a FaceTime. Okay. We'll make this pretty quick.
Do you have a video showing this technique?
I think so. I think there's one of those things got it on. If you go to the 4-part series, I do all of the beats, goes, flats, distant points. I do end grain, side grain, final cuts. I do I think I've got one with an offset, and then I do have one with an offset, and then I also have one with a 1 multi-axis shift. I never do more than 1 shift on any of my artwork, right? Because I found out that it makes it classy. It makes one askance shadow line, and personally, I mean, I love what Frank Penna does and Escalon does and all that, but guess what? I'm not into the Tinker Toy ideas, you know? But if you'd use the 1 offset, right, or 1 multi-axis shift, you get this wonderful light shadow line when you're dealing with really nice, you know, wooden grain. Don't do that stuff. Let the, make a simple shape and let the grain show. You know, it's like bottle stoppers. You know, people take this beautiful piece of spalwood and make 5,000 little grooves and all that. It just destroys the whole effect. You know, just make an egg shape and let the wood be worth something. Okay, here we go, real quick, real quick. All right. Too much pressure. Trying to hurry. All right, so this is going to be the top. So if that's going to be the top, what we're going to do is we're going to put it on it. Make sure to roll that gouge over, get a sharp square corner in there. So if you have plain wood, this stuff works wonders. And remember, when you go to a craft show or anything, right, you are trying to appeal to the ladies of the audience. Because the men are hunting, fishing, golfing, So 90% of all your sales are always going to be to women. If you're going to do really nice art, then go to a juried art show, not one where the Hoover vacuum cleaner man is there and the State Farm agent and all that other stuff. Because then you're competing with a guy who's making 25-cent refrigerator magnets and all that. You don't want to do that. Okay, so now we're going to shape this thing. We're going to shape it and finish the bottom half and finish the bottom all the way to 800 random orbit because we'll never come back. Let's put it around here. We'll sand it a little bit. There's 200. All right, get those nervous ridges out. All right. Let me just show everybody. All right, we made that cut with what? Spindle roughing gouge, didn't we? Uh-oh, I've got this right here. Got to get that out. That's no good. Didn't see it spinning. That's 180. I'm just trying to, I rushed. It won't take long. Don't be afraid to use sandpaper. See that line right there? We'll just get rid of it real quick. There we go. Now we can go down to 220. Whatever. It's all 400. We'll go to 400. One of these is 400 somewhere. There's 400. And then we'll go to 800. Go to 800. Okay, we've gone to 800. And then what do we do? Thank you. Always do 800. Always do your random orbit sanding. All right, by hand. And why do we do that? Right, the human eyeball cannot see random orbit 800. Okay, we've got a little problem right here, folks. See that? Yeah. So if I see that right there, what I'll do is I'll just go back to, cut it back to 400 or whatever here. All right. Go right there with the grain. Okay, there we go. Go back to 400 here, wherever my 400 is. That's 400. Now we'll do our 800 random orbit. We'll go with what we've got. Yep, 400, 800, and 800 random orbit. I've still got a little in here, but we're going to go forward tonight because I know we're running out of time. Okay, so now we'll take this tailstock off, and we have to make our undercut for the bottom. And what do we make our undercut for the bottom with? spindle gouge, right? That's the way you make an undercut for a bowl and everything. What happens if you use a parting tool? You crap up the wood bad. So, okay, here we go now. What happens if I put this spindle gouge in here like this? What's going to happen? Pow! Because it violates the east-west rule. Right? So, once we make bevel contact, we can go anywhere we want with our spindle gouges with no catches or screw backs or whatever. Right. Okay? Okay, so what does the east-west rule say? If the flute faces, to the west, the tool always has to enter the wood west of north. Okay, so my flute is facing to the east, and I'm going to stick the point at 12 o'clock. Once I stick this point at 12 o'clock, guess what? See, I can go anywhere I want. I'm not going to get catches. See that? I rub the bevel. I can go right up underneath. We're getting vibration out here because of this long extension. I'll just take tiny bites. And so we'll slice this sucker right up underneath. Okay, we can sand that probably from 400 and 800. And we'll turn it around. And we'll do the offset. So now we've got a concave there, so it'll sit on the outer rim. There's a little 800. Now, can everybody see that little button in the middle? Can you see that? Okay, tonight I won't mess with it, but you can just keep sanding this, or if I have a soft wood where you get that tear out where that last little slice goes across, just take your wood burner and do what? Make some weird design and go through there. It's like a wormhole. Well, it's over. You know? Okay. Still see I can still see a little line. We're going to go forward tonight. Okay, now we're going to take this off and we are going to drill it. What? No, we got to make it before we finish it. wherever my thing is. Here we go. Okay, so now what we have to do, right, we have to determine what do we want our customer to see? What design? Do we want to see this design? Do we want to see this design? Do we want to see this design? You know, what design do we want to tell me to stop when you see a design you like? That one's not too bad. Okay, we'll do that. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a pencil or whatever we've got around here. Let's see if I've got a pencil in here. Anyway, I'll take this right here. Okay, so, okay, all right, yeah, that'll work. Thank you. Okay, so here's the design we want to show the customer, right? So we come back from that design right there. We draw a line right through the center. We come back of the center, right? And let's say we'll put how about a 3/8? We'll offset it 3/8. We can offset this thing as much as we want within the limits of the wood. Okay, so now we're going to drill this thing. Let me get this thing off of here. Okay, we'll get this. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a support plate. Just put it on your live center. You can buy them. There we go. And now we're going to drill this thing with a 3/16 drill. 3/4 by 10 is on the live center. That came from Best Wood Tools. Mercy. Where's my Jacob's chuck? Come on, where are you? Okay, I can put it in here since I'm going to support it here, but the better alternative is to put it into the chuck, right? Then it won't pull out of the thing. We'll just do this real quick tonight. So what we're going to do is we're going to, oh, shoot. Okay, so there's our spot. Let's put a little. It will go wrong, right? You know what's interesting, when you're in your own shop, it's just like an airplane cockpit, everything, you know right where it is. Okay, so right now I can just go ahead and drill this. Let me turn it down. just here. Okay, so now we'll knock this thing out. We'll put on that this adapter plate. No. Parallel. Just had that handle. Where's my handle? Here it is, right here. Okay. All right, let me put a pin in there. Okay, so you got a 1/4-20 screw here, and we've done a 3/16, so we're going to screw it on there. Uh, get it done for you here. So now what we'll do is we will screw that on that offset hole. There we go. And now we will put our support plate up here. If you put this on center, right, then this thing's going to go weirdo. You always have to have it running parallel. So if this thing is at 90 degrees, then all the force goes straight down, even though it's offset. So you won't get a twist in it. Okay. Here we go. This is where we really need to sharpen the tool so that it cuts in better. But we'll just make the cut. I'll make a little OG curve. Gotta sharpen that tool. It's just terrible. Yeah, what I'm trying to do is come in on that where it wants to cam. You really need a super sharp tool when you're making that cut. So what we have is one askance line on here. All right, now we would sand this and finish this, but we can put this on a screw chuck. Anybody can put it on a screw chuck if they want it. And you sand this. You come off here, right here, see where I'm getting the reverberations right here on that camming? Really need to have a super sharp tool. You need to, sand that by hand a little bit right there, but don't go over this edge because you're already 800. See that? So you just have to sand that little reverberation out right there. And after you sand that reverberation off the edge, then you can turn around. Right? And you can put your sandpaper down in here. See that? And do that. Now I drilled that pretty deep, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to cut it off. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. This is not perfect. It's got some lines in it. Do you want to see me put the 3408 on it? Okay. All right, we'll just put that on real quick. All right, you'll get the drift, right? And then we'll cut it. I'll leave the screw thing on there so we can cut it off. Okay, so we take Parfix 3408. It's medical super glue. So there's no stinking, there's no odor. It's not going to start setting up. It's got a time delay in it. I think some people up here are already using it. I think Frank saw it. We wipe it on. Then we get a paper towel. And we make sure that we always wipe all of our finish off the surface. We never, ever, ever want any finish on a surface. See? You're wiping it all off. Now, My 40 seconds are up. It's starting to stick a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll just do a little random orbit there real quick. Okay, and for the sake of the demo tonight, we'll spray a little accelerator. We're going to use a heptane-based accelerator so it doesn't dissolve the super glue. Acetone, people get up there and they spray this stuff and here's all you do when you put any type of accelerant on. That's all you ever do, because as soon as it hits and it starts one molecule, then it goes to the next molecule, and all these molecules are bumping, generating a lot of heat. Then pretty soon they slow down, and the polymerization process ends up being what? Acrylic plastic. Okay. I'll go ahead and I'll show you how I cut this off. This is deep enough. If you want, I can finish it and send it back to your club or whatever. Take a spindle gouge, of course, if we can find it in this dark mess. And we always want to have support. Okay, here we go. Now this will be obviously after it's all sanded and everything, right? You might want to have a little more flair in here and all that, but for tonight we're going to okay, so we've made our cut all the way to the screw. And so now we have one other dilemma which we're going to solve, and that's that we've got screw threads looking down the hole. Now, you can do this on this type of a thing, or you can put your woodworm screw on there, or any size screw that you want. I mean, you can make a hole that big as long as you can, support it. So down in the bottom there, we've got screw threads that we can see. So what we're going to do is we are going to put our Jacob's chuck in there. If we can get it in there and find our drill. Here we go. There's only 2 more minutes, guys, and we'll be out of here. Okay. I don't know where I put it. There's a tapered drill out here somewhere. Okay, here we go. So now, if I put this on a drill press, right, then to clean up that hole, it's going to wander all over the place. So what I've done is I've taken a drill and I've tapered it down, because then it won't wander. Oh, Sorry, folks. Okay, so then I put the taper drill down in the hole. Then all I have to do is push it forward. And it'll clean up the edge perfectly. I'll pass it around as soon as, we'll put the buffer on here, and we will buff this up real quick for you. Huh.
Anyone who would like can take one of Mark's pieces home and finish it and bring it into the auction at the party. That would be great. Just another second, he's going to buff it, and then we'll be done. Tom, you've got a... Where's Tom? Does he have a raffle to draw, I think?
If anybody wants some of that Boxelder, some out in the truck, I'll sell it for some. a good
I'm
price.
sorry we didn't get to the show and tell tonight. But Frank wasn't here to do it anyway. Please bring your pieces into the Tuesday meeting, and we can do it then. If anybody wants to join the AAW, yeah, go ahead, Tom. Do your drawing. I have the forms here for AAW. You can also do it online.
On a general raffle, gonna start, the last three are 4, 8, 2.
Okay, I'm gonna pass this around. I want you to note where I put the expansion drill in. We had one coat, we wiped it on, we wiped it off, we buffed it with Von X, and that's your finish. You can just pass that around. And you've got, and guess what? Our design came out right on front, the way we planned it. That's one coat, wiped on, wiped off. Von X, yeah.
Thank you very, very much, Mark. We do have a few more spaces in the workshops for tomorrow if you're interested.
I think I've got one left. Let me see if I've got one left here.